WCCO.
It is 8:22. I'm joined at this hour by GOP presidential hopeful and Congressman Ron Paul. And good morning, sir. Thank you for being with us here on WCCO.
Good morning. Nice to be with you.
Hey, tell me this. There's a big story that says you are doubling down on Minnesota. I'm not exactly sure what that means. I'm guessing it means you're putting more resources into it. But why? Why Minnesota, sir?
Well, we've always had a lot of friends up here. 5-10 years ago, if you'd have said that Minnesota was a good libertarian-leaning conservative state, I'd say, well, I didn't know about that. But once I started coming in here, there was a lot of enthusiasm for the message of individual freedom and a foreign policy that's a little bit more sensible. So because the receptions were good over the years, I've been coming in and out, and we did a little better last time 4 years ago than I had expected. So the enthusiasm has continued to build, and the crowds are great, and the organization is strong. So we're putting a lot of effort in and hoping we'll do well tonight.
Something that I have witnessed just from people that I know is continued resonance among young people for some of the things that you believe in, that you represent. Where does that come from? Why is that?
Well, a lot of people have been trying to figure it out. I'm not sure I have the full answer. I talk to them a lot of time and ask. They say, I like it because I'm consistent, do what I say, follow the Constitution. They're interested in the Federal Reserve. And a natural inclination of somebody who's 17 or 18 or 19 is not to have wars going on. So, and they're concerned about the debt, too. They're becoming alert. A lot of times the young generation doesn't get a whole lot of credit, but the people that come to my rallies are very well informed, and they have concerns, and they have a lot of debt. They're graduating college, a lot of debt, and no jobs. And I think the free market and sound money gives a lot of explanation. If you can save trillions of dollars by changing the foreign policy and changing the system of entitlements, they're very open to these ideas.
Congressman Ron Paul, a GOP presidential hopeful Ron Paul on this. Ahead of these caucuses here, some 10 and a half hours away now in Minnesota. And although these caucuses will be going on at various places around, well, all over the state, they don't really necessarily bind anybody to anything. We also have a primary coming up later on. So why does this become important then? Is it to establish a foothold? Is that the idea, to get more of your message out?
Yeah, well, also, you're right. It is a straw vote type thing, and nobody's bound. But it is a strong message. But you also start to elect people that will go through the process, and we eventually will end up as delegates. So, yes, it's good PR if you do real well, but if you have the people out there getting in the right places. So, in theory, you might not come out on top, but you might do very, very well in gathering up a lot of delegates, and those answers won't be found. Even in Iowa, looking at all the attention that Iowa has gotten, and yet they're still going through the process. I mean, nobody knows exactly who's going to get which delegates out there, and even in Nevada, which is right now a lot of controversy or talk about what's going on, but if you have the right people in the right places and you go through the system, you can get delegates, and that's the same way it is here. So we think it's an important state because of the support we've been getting.
What kind of percentages do you need to see come out of this day to give you additional confidence, additional motivation to stay with this?
Oh, it to me is hard to say. Obviously, the higher the better, and I haven't thought about it in terms of the percentages, but I think of it in terms of enthusiasm for the people to get in the right places and the willingness to go through the whole process.
All right. One of the things that may come of this, if in fact you are in this position to lead this country, is the idea of trying to get some sort of a consensus in Washington. It seems from where we sit, at least here in the Midwest, that's just almost an impossibility. How do you go about consensus building?
Well, I think it is important, and I want to build with coalitions. Before, they used to say, often you still hear saying, well, there's not enough compromise, but in many ways there's been way too much, because there's been people in Washington that want to spend money overseas and people who want to spend money here at home for different reasons, but they get together and they both spend money. And I think the coalition ought to be individuals who want to cut in both areas. So not very many people want, especially conservatives, want to talk about spending these trillions of dollars that we spend overseas. The wars have cost us $4 trillion of debt in these last 10 years. So I think you should work with coalitions of those who are not considered as conservative and cut that spending. At the same time, address the problems here. We have the entitlement system bring people together. I'm convinced that the freedom issue brings people together because it's open to allowing people to run their lives as they choose, and we also should let people spend their money as they choose.
Well, I thank you for making time for us on this caucus day in Minnesota. It'll be interesting to see how these numbers play out tomorrow morning, sir. Best of luck to you.
Thanks for having me on.
Take care. That's Congressman, GOP presidential hopeful Ron Paul.